Hey y'all, Tracy Wainwright here, and I am super excited to talk to you today about my author journey. So, a lot of people ask me all the time about how did I get started writing? Did I always love writing? Like, where do I get stories from? And I have what I think is a very unique journey to becoming a multi published author. So, the answer to one of those questions is no. I did not always love writing. I was not the kid that was always making up stories. I did not like English. I did learn to love to read at an early age because in my family, on some days, there just wasn't a lot of choice. Like, I became a football fan because on Sundays, that was what was on TV, although I never got into NASCAR, even though that's what happened in the summer months. But my whole family was readers. So I just kind of by default learned to read and fell in love with reading stories. But I never really had a desire to write them. I thought, like maybe most people, like maybe one day I could write a story. But it wasn't really something that I desired to do. And English was not my favorite class. Like, I was a math girl, like hardcore math girl. I tell people I have the trophy to prove it. So I won a math competition in fifth grade. Math was pretty easy for me in high school. When it became difficult, like I didn't go any further just because it had always been so easy to me and I didn't actually learn a lot of the concepts. So that made it harder to continue on. But it wasn't until I was a young mom that I really began to crave to put down my thoughts on paper. And so I had gone through college for 7 years. I was a counselor. I was, like I said, a young mom. And when we had our second child, we just decided and felt called for me to quit work and stay home. And so, in order to do that, I ended up doing some daycare in my home to at least supplement my previous income a little bit. And so, I was spending my days with 4 to 5 kids, most of them under 3 and maybe 1 or 2 that were about in the 4 to 7 range. And so it was a great opportunity and very busy time, but I really missed talking to adults. I did not get to have those conversations that I had on a daily basis. And so I had all these thoughts swirling through my head, and this was in like the mid 2000s. And so there was also just this kind of in the back of my mind, the stay at home mom versus working mom kind of debate that had been going around for a while and just different opinions. And that's kind of what I first started writing about, like what it actually looked like to be a stay at home mom, and planned out this whole book and just like dug into research, which is something I'd done a lot in getting my bachelor's degree in psychology and my master's in counseling, and really just had hunger for learning and for sharing. And so that's how I started writing. And then, so that was 2005. So I also just dug into the writing world. So went to the library and got books about writing, read blogs, because in the early to mid 2000s, that's where you got a lot of information, was blogs. I even went to a couple of writing seminars and workshops and eventually a writer's conference. But around 2009, I just had this spark of a story for a young woman who is just graduating and getting out of college, and what her life looked like and making that transition and having kind of her world fall apart during that time. And how do you handle that? And especially as someone who's not a believer but has believers in their life. And so I sat down for the better part of 4 weekends and wrote this story. And it was so quick and I was super excited and just couldn't believe that I was able to make up a story and get it down on paper. And I let one person read it and they had some feedback, and I let another person read it and they had some feedback. So each time I would clean up the manuscript a little bit. They would point out different patterns that I hadn't even noticed that I was doing in my writing. And I eventually joined American ACFW or AC. Yes, American Christian Fiction Writers Group, ACFW. And one of the greatest benefits of that is you can join a critique group. And so they pair you with people who are relatively new writers, but have different levels of experience. And that critique group of 4 women just really had such an impact on my writing and helping me improve it. And basically, you would submit a chapter a week, and everyone else would submit a chapter a week. So you would critique or edit the 3 other chapters, and then you would get 3 critiques / edits on yours. And that just really helped me hone my writing skills to not only write a story, but write it well and really make the writing quality writing and what publishers were looking for. So that was, I don't know, 2011, 2012. And when I had originally started writing, someone had told me to expect 5 to 10 years before getting a publishing contract. And I was like, oh, no way it would take that long. Well, if you're keeping track, I started initially writing in 2005. We've already made it to 2011, 12. No hint of a contract anywhere, but I was getting better, and I was putting myself around other writers in different contexts and continuing just to absorb the information that was out there about writing for publication. And so I continued on that journey and went to a conference, don't remember exactly what year, maybe 2015, 2016. And I met an editor and had one of my manuscripts. And it actually was not that original book. It was a mystery that I had written. And lo and behold, I got a contract. And that was one of the most exciting days that I had had. Now, let me backtrack a little bit, because I had ended up self-publishing by then, which I never wanted to do and never expected to do, because when I started writing in 2005, self-publishing was vanity publishing. It was, your writing wasn't good enough to get published. It wasn't, you weren't willing to go make the connections and really do the work that it took to get a contract. And so you would pay thousands of dollars to have it edited and formatted and printed. But by the time 2014 rolled around, KDP had been created by Amazon, and it had really started taking off. And if you're not familiar with KDP, it is the self-publishing arm of Amazon, and they just make it super easy. And so I was able to figure out how to format, figure out how to do cover designs, because I couldn't afford to pay anybody to do all of that for me. And so DIY'd all of that, talked to other people who had gone through it, researched, looked it up, tried to do my absolute best, and ended up self-publishing a novel that I had been releasing in a magazine, like one column at a time. And for the anniversary of that magazine for 2 years, the editor was like, hey, it would be so cool if at our party you had your story published. I'm like, okay, well, I can do this. And since I'm doing that, I have 2 children's book ideas, so I might as well go ahead and publish 3 books at the same time. And God had just gifted me with some great illustrators who worked on royalty, and they didn't want to be paid up front. And so it was just a crazy, crazy time. Now, keep in mind, in the middle of all this, I am homeschooling kids that are from 5 to 11. So life was just really busy, but it was just an exciting time. And so I got those published. Did not know a lot about marketing. Actually, probably didn't know hardly anything about marketing at that time, but published 3 books, kept writing, kept going to conferences, eventually got that contract a year or 2 later for my mystery. And then a couple of years later, went to another conference and took that very first initial book of that young girl who is just getting out of college and her life completely falls apart. And lo and behold, was offered a contract. Well, at this time, I had imagined not only this young woman's story, but had learned the value of just good godly friendships in my life. And I wanted to create that kind of story, because I'm not really a romance girl. I mean, I have read romances in the past, but they're so repetitive and just always follow a very predictable format. And that just wasn't really a good fit for me. I wanted to be surprised. That's why I like mysteries and suspense a little bit better. Enjoyed cozy mysteries. And so I pictured this young woman, and as she got married and moved on with her life, friends were going to be invaluable to her and everything that she was going to go through. So I created this friend group of 4 friends, and lo and behold, that one book that got contracted, the editor agreed to contract a whole 9-book series. So each of those 2 books follow one of the friends, and the book 9 wraps it up. That was about 2018 or 2019. Well, the first book came out last year in 2025. So yes, it was a long journey because we wanted to get all of them written before the first one published. And each one has to go through my editor and then back to me and back to my editor and then to the copy editor. And then we get like 5 or 6 apples on it to get it as perfect as we possibly can. And so my journey was different in that I really have always said that writing is a supernatural gift that the Lord gave me because it wasn't innate in me. It didn't flow naturally. I had to really get out of my kind of analytical math brain to create stories. But also, even then, it just because God gave me that gift didn't make it easy. Like I had to study, I had to work at it, I had to research, I had to really put a lot of energy and effort into it to not just write stories, but to write well. It just didn't come naturally to me. And so I encourage anyone who's ever thought about writing a book, or you've written it and you're not sure what to do with it, just to follow the process of getting other eyes on it, and not just friends and family, because that was a good start for me. They could catch certain things, but people who know the publishing world and know what readers are looking for, what editors are looking for, but also just study the craft of writing and then write and write and write. I should probably one day add up how many hundreds of thousands of words I've written. Like I can't even begin to guess right now, but you have to just keep doing it and keep doing it. And so I just want to encourage you, if you have any questions about how to get into writing, how to form a group around you, just make that dream come true, please ask them. And I hope my story encouraged you.